Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. They celebrated too soon, humanity's full might was still coming. Admiral Terok stared at the blue-green planet through the massive viewport of the Sovereign Judgment. His leathery skin tightened as his lips curled into what passed for a smile among the Kelnari. Earth looked peaceful from orbit, almost serene. The humans had fought with unexpected ferocity, but their resistance had ultimately crumbled just as their tactical algorithms had predicted. "Send the message to High Command," Terok ordered, his resonant voice filling the command deck. "Earth has fallen, the human threat is neutralized." His second-in-command, Officer Benar, lowered his head respectfully. "At once, Admiral, the Dominion will celebrate this victory for generations." Terok nodded, satisfaction warming his cold blood. The war that had raged across 3 star systems for the past 2 Earth years was finally over. Humanity, with their unpredictable tactics and stubborn refusal to surrender, had been a thorn in the Dominion's side since first contact. But now their orbital defenses lay in ruins, their space fleet scattered and destroyed. "Begin the occupation protocols," Terok commanded. "I want control of all remaining orbital stations within the next rotation." 200 meters below the Sovereign Judgment, Commander Valeria Reeves crouched in the darkness of an underground bunker, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Kelnari ships in orbit. Her uniform was torn and dirty, her face covered in a week's worth of stubble, but her eyes remained sharp, focused. "Status report," she demanded, glancing at the communications officer beside her. "Dominion forces have taken the Luna base and the orbital platforms," Lieutenant Franklin replied, his voice steady despite the defeat weighing on their shoulders. "They're broadcasting victory messages across all channels." Reeves nodded slowly, "And our satellites?" "The stealth network is still operational. They haven't detected them yet." "Good," Reeves said, allowing herself a small smile. "And protocol exodus." The room fell silent. Franklin tapped a few commands into his console, bringing up a new display. Hundreds of tiny dots moved away from Earth in all directions, already far beyond the range of standard Kelnari scanners. "Last ship cleared the solar system 4 hours ago, Commander. 3 billion civilians evacuated. The colony ships report all cryopods functioning normally." Reeves exhaled slowly. The aliens didn't know it yet, but they had conquered an empty shell. When the Dominion's intentions became clear 6 years ago, humanity had prepared for the worst. The massive underground shipyards had worked day and night, building enormous colony vessels designed to escape detection. "And the military assets?" she asked quietly. "Admiral Harrison reports the Phoenix fleet reached the Proxima staging area safely. General Torres confirms Mars base self-destructed after evacuation. All technology and weapon designs were purged from Earth databases." Reeves stood up straight, walking to the center of the command room. Around her, the last 200 members of Earth's Defense Command watched in silence. "They think they've won," she said, her voice filling the room. "They believe they've seen the full measure of humanity's strength and defeated it." She gestured to the display showing the Dominion ships. "But they've only fought our delaying force. The real war hasn't even begun." On the 5th day of occupation, Admiral Terok walked through the abandoned streets of what had once been Paris. The city was eerily quiet. Dominion troops had secured the area, but something felt wrong. "Where are all the humans?" he asked the intelligence officer accompanying him. "Our estimates suggest many died in the orbital bombardment, Admiral," the officer replied. "Others have likely fled to the countryside." Terok frowned. The bombardment had been precise, targeting only military installations, and their scans had shown a planet with nearly 8 billion inhabitants just months ago. Even accounting for casualties, the cities should not be this empty. "Your report stated we would face significant ground resistance," Terok noted. "Yet we've encountered almost none." "Perhaps their will to fight died with their fleet, Admiral." But Terok wasn't convinced. In every previous conflict, humans fought to the last, defending their territories with a ferocity that had impressed even the most battle-hardened Dominion commanders. "Scan for underground structures," he ordered suddenly, "and increase our orbital surveillance. I want to know where they've gone." "They're getting suspicious," Franklin reported as fresh intelligence came through their secure channels. "Dominion forces are extending their search patterns." Reeves nodded, studying the displays. "It doesn't matter, they're looking in the wrong place." The bunker had become their home for the past week as they coordinated with the remnants of Earth's military still in hiding. Scattered across the planet, small groups of soldiers and operatives lay dormant, waiting for orders. Message from Admiral Harrison, Commander, Franklin said, his eyes widening as he read the incoming transmission. The Phoenix fleet has successfully rendezvoused with the Mars contingent. The Arcturus shipyards are operational, and the first wave of battleships is already under construction. A murmur of excitement ran through the command center. Reeves allowed her people this moment of hope. For the first time since the Dominion arrived, good news had reached them. Time estimate until the counteroffensive can begin, Reeves asked. Admiral Harrison projects 3 years, Commander. We need time to build up our forces and establish the colony worlds as secure bases. 3 years of occupation, 3 years of hiding and watching their planet controlled by alien forces. Reeves clenched her jaw but nodded. Send the order to all remaining cells, she said firmly. Initiate Operation Shadow, minimal engagement, maximum intelligence gathering. I want to know everything about their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. In his quarters aboard the Sovereign Judgment, Admiral Terok reviewed the latest reports with growing concern. The human population counts weren't adding up. Initial estimates suggested billions of inhabitants, but scans were only detecting a few 100 million life signs. And the resistance they had encountered was sporadic, almost performative. Admiral, Benar said, entering the room with an urgent expression. Our scouts have discovered something unusual in the asteroid belt. Terok looked up from his reports. Show me. Benar activated a holographic display, revealing images of massive engine signatures leading out of the solar system in multiple directions. These energy patterns match nothing in our database, Benar explained, but they appear to be warp signatures of some kind. Hundreds of them, all departing Earth in the weeks before our arrival. Terok stood so quickly that his chair crashed to the floor behind him. Why wasn't this detected earlier? The signatures were masked somehow, sir. Our routine scans missed them entirely. It was only when we calibrated for specific human energy patterns that we found them. Terok stared at the display, a cold feeling spreading through his body as the truth dawned on him. They knew we were coming, he whispered. They evacuated their planet. Sir, Benar looked confused. This isn't their surrender, Terok said, his voice rising with sudden clarity. This is their strategic withdrawal. As if confirming his revelation, the ship's alarms suddenly blared to life. Terok rushed to the bridge with Benar close behind him. On the main display, a message was repeating across all Dominion frequencies, a simple text transmission in the human language. It read, this was only round 1. 3 years passed under Dominion rule. Earth became a forward operating base for their fleet, its resources steadily stripped for the expansion of the alien empire. The remaining humans lived under strict control, permitted to work only in approved sectors. On the surface, the Kelnari victory appeared complete. Dr. Elliot Harper adjusted his laboratory coat and nodded politely to the Dominion guards as he entered the research facility. To them, he was Dr. Havel, a brilliant xenobiologist who had willingly defected to the Dominion after the invasion. His scaled supervisor, Chief Scientist Vrel, trusted him implicitly. Good morning, Dr. Havel, Vrel said, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of pleasure among her kind. Your findings on human cellular regeneration were most impressive. Thank you, Chief Scientist, Harper replied, bowing slightly as was custom. I believe the applications could benefit Dominion medicine significantly. What Vrel didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Dr. Elliot Harper was humanity's most deeply embedded spy. His real name wasn't even Harper. That identity had been created years before the invasion. Every day for 3 years, he had gathered intelligence on Kelnari biology, technology, and most importantly, their weaknesses. I've been granted access to the central database for our next project, Vrel announced. We'll be studying ways to improve Dominion soldiers' resistance to radiation. Harper nodded, his expression neutral while his mind raced. Central database access was exactly what he'd been working toward for months. I'm honored by your trust, he said. Halfway across the world, in the ruins of what had once been Sydney, General Noel Pierce moved through the shadows of destroyed buildings. The night vision implanted in her left eye, technology the Kelnari didn't know humans possessed, showed her the patrol routes of the alien soldiers. Pierce had once been a tactical specialist in Earth's defense forces. Now she led the planet's largest resistance cell, coordinating attacks designed not to win battles but to feed false information to the enemy. She reached the hidden entrance to their underground base and pressed her palm against a section of concrete that looked no different from the rest. A scanner read her DNA, and a hidden door slid open. Inside, dozens of resistance fighters worked at stations, monitoring Dominion communications, troop movements, and supply lines. They all stood at attention when she entered. At ease, she said, moving to the central table where a holographic map showed Dominion positions worldwide. Report. Her second-in-command, Major Julian Price, stepped forward. Contact established with Luna Base Resistance. They've successfully planted the false data in the Dominion mining operation. Pierce nodded, and our friend on the inside. Message received 1 hour ago, Price replied, lowering his voice. Dr. Harper has been granted central database access. Operation Trojan is a go. A murmur of excitement ran through the room. For 3 years they had worked toward this moment. Now the real counterattack could begin. Send the signal to Proxima, Pierce ordered. Tell Admiral Harrison the door is open. In the depths of space, beyond the detection range of Dominion sensors, Admiral Darius West stood on the bridge of the Defiance, the largest warship ever built by human hands. Around his vessel, hundreds of battleships, carriers, and destroyers floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of an alien sun. Signal from Earth, Admiral, his communications officer reported. Dr. Harper is in position. General Pierce says the door is open. West nodded, a tight smile forming on his lips. Acknowledge the message and notify all ships. Operation Retribution begins now. Throughout the massive fleet, lights began to change from standby yellow to combat red. Weapon systems powered up, and soldiers moved to their battle stations. Lieutenant Grace Mercer, now his XO, approached with a tablet. Sir, the first reports from our scout ships are coming in. Dominion outposts in the Rigel sector have been hit as planned. Their defenses were completely unprepared, and their response is confusion, sir. They're still trying to determine who attacked them. West studied the tactical display. For 3 years, humanity had built this fleet in secret, using the resources of a dozen star systems beyond Dominion territory. At the same time, Dr. Harper and others had infiltrated Dominion operations, feeding them false information about human capabilities while gathering critical intelligence. Send in the second wave, West ordered. Hit their supply lines in the Procyon system, then withdraw before reinforcements arrive. Yes, Admiral. West turned to look out at his fleet once more. The ships represented humanity's new approach to warfare, not the direct confrontation the Dominion had expected, but something more elusive and deadly. Each vessel incorporated technology the aliens had never seen, designed specifically to counter their weapons and defenses. It's time they learned who they're really fighting, he said quietly. On the Kelnari homeworld, Admiral Terok stood before the High Council, his once proud posture now stiff with tension. Explain these attacks, demanded the High Counselor, her voice cold with anger. You assured us the humans were defeated. They were defeated, Terok insisted. The forces we faced at Earth were destroyed completely. Then who is attacking our outposts? Another counselor shouted. Who destroyed our mining operation in the Rigel sector? Terok hesitated, the reports in his hands trembling slightly. We believe it may be human forces we were unaware of. The council chamber erupted in outrage. As the shouting continued, Terok's communicator vibrated. He glanced down at the message and felt his blood run cold. High Council, he said, his voice cutting through the noise. I've just received word that our defense station in the Procyon system has been destroyed. The attacking ships, they're definitely human in design, but far more advanced than anything we encountered at Earth. The room fell silent. How is this possible? The High Counselor asked finally. Terok looked up, the truth dawning on him with terrible clarity. The Earth invasion, it wasn't the end of the war. It was only the beginning. We never fought their main force. Just then the chamber's main screen activated automatically. A human face appeared, a man with steel-gray eyes and the bearing of a commander. I am Admiral Darius West of the United Earth Fleet, the human said, his voice calm but filled with determination. 3 years ago you attacked our homeworld, believing you had measured the full extent of humanity's strength. West leaned closer to the camera. You were wrong. What you fought was only our delaying force while we evacuated our people and prepared our real military. Now we're coming for you." The transmission cut off, leaving the Kelnari High Council in stunned silence. In orbit above their world, sensors began to detect hundreds of warp signatures approaching. The war had returned, and this time humanity was the invader. Dr. Harper worked quickly in the central database chamber, his fingers flying over the alien controls. Around him, alarms blared as the Dominion facility went into lockdown. "Dr. Havel, what are you doing?" Chief Scientist Vrel demanded, rushing into the room. "The security systems report unauthorized access." Harper didn't look up from his work. "I'm sorry, Vrel, my name isn't Havel, it never was." Understanding dawned in the alien's four eyes. You're with them, the attacking humans." "I am them," Harper replied, completing the final sequence. On screens around the room, the Dominion's defense grid began to shut down, sector by sector. Harper reached into his pocket and removed a small device, pressing it against his temple. The holographic disguise that had altered his features for 3 years flickered and disappeared, revealing his true face. Harder, scarred from battles fought before the occupation. "You've been working for the humans all along," Vrel whispered, backing away. "But why? We offered you knowledge, position, respect." Harper looked up at last, his eyes cold. "You offered me those things after you attacked my world and killed millions of my people. Did you think I would actually accept?" Before Vrel could respond, the facility shook with a distant explosion. The human counterattack had reached them. "The defense grid is down," Harper said, standing straight. "Every Dominion military installation on Earth just lost their shields and automated weapons. Your troops are now fighting without support against a prepared enemy who knows all your weaknesses." He drew a small pistol from beneath his lab coat, a human weapon that had remained hidden for 3 years. "I truly am sorry, Vrel, you were kind to me." He pointed the weapon at the control panel rather than at her. "But this war isn't over, it's just beginning." The Kelnari defense, fleet above their homeworld of Throck, broke apart like glass under a hammer. Human warships moved with a precision that stunned the alien defenders, their weapons technology that had remained hidden during the Earth invasion cutting through Dominion shields as if they weren't there. "Second wave advance, Admiral," West ordered from the bridge of the Defiance. "Focus fire on their orbital defense platforms." Lieutenant Mercer nodded, relaying the commands to the fleet. On the main view screen, Dominion vessels desperately tried to regroup, but their formations were in chaos. "They're attempting to adapt their shields to our weapons, sir," reported the tactical officer. West smiled grimly. "They won't succeed, Dr. Harper made sure of that." For 3 years, Harper had secretly modified the Dominion's shield systems, introducing a subtle flaw in their design that made them vulnerable to the specific frequencies used by human weapons. It was a masterpiece of patient sabotage. "Sir, Dominion reinforcements detected approaching from their outer colonies," Mercer announced. "Right on schedule," West said. "Deploy the minefields along their approach vectors and prepare the ambush fleet." As he spoke, hundreds of stealth mines activated in the space lanes, their sensors locked onto the unique signature of Dominion warp drives. When the reinforcement fleet arrived, they would find a deadly welcome waiting for them. On Earth, General Pierce stood at the entrance of the Resistance bunker, watching as her fighters prepared for battle. Today, after 3 years of hiding and gathering intelligence, they would finally strike. "All teams report ready, General," Price said, approaching with an assault rifle in hand. Across the globe, similar scenes were playing out as resistance cells prepared to rise up. "The Dominion garrison has been reduced by 60%, Pierce noted, checking her own weapon. "Most of their ships were pulled to defend their homeworld just as we planned." Price replied with a tight smile. When West had informed them of his intention to strike the Dominion homeworld, they had known it would create the perfect opportunity. The aliens would have no choice but to recall ships from Earth to defend their home, leaving their occupation forces weakened. "Remember, our priority is taking the command centers intact," Pierce reminded her troops as they gathered around her. "We need their communication systems to coordinate with Admiral West." She looked at each face in turn, men and women who had survived occupation, who had lost homes and families but never lost hope. "Today we take back our planet," she said simply, then raising her fist, "for Earth." "For Earth," came the thunderous reply. Commander Reeves, who had spent the last 3 years operating from the shadows, led the assault on the primary Dominion command center in what had once been New York. Her team moved swiftly through the corridors, their weapons, designed specifically to penetrate Dominion armor, making quick work of the guards. "Commander, we've secured the communication hub," reported Sergeant Thomas over her comm unit. "Systems are intact." "Begin the broadcast," Reeves ordered, stepping over a fallen Dominion soldier as she made her way toward the central operations room. Inside, a team of resistance technicians had already taken control of the consoles, their fingers flying over the alien controls as they executed the carefully planned takeover sequence. "Sending our authentication codes to the fleet now," one of them called out. "Link established with the Defiance." Reeves nodded, a sense of grim satisfaction washing over her as she watched the main screen flicker to life, showing the face of Admiral West. "Commander Reeves," West greeted her, his voice clear despite the light years between them. "Status report." "New York Command Center secured, Admiral," she replied. "Eastern Seaboard resistance cells report all primary targets in our sector neutralized. General Pierce is leading the assault on their western headquarters. We'll have full planetary communications control within the hour." "Excellent work," West said. "The space battle here is proceeding as planned. Their reinforcements just hit our minefields. We've destroyed nearly 40% of their fleet and the rest are in disarray. They never expected us to know their exact approach vectors." 3 years of intelligence gathering does have its advantages," Reeves said with a grim smile. "Indeed it does," West agreed. "Once you've secured Earth's orbital defense grid, prepare for Phase 2. Our colonial fleets from Proxima and Tau Ceti will be arriving in system within 24 hours to help secure Earth space." "Understood, Admiral. Earth will be ready." As the transmission ended, Reeves turned to her team. "You heard the Admiral. Let's finish this." Across Earth, similar victories were being reported. The Dominion forces, cut off from their command structure and deprived of reinforcements, were falling back in disarray. The carefully planned and simultaneously executed strikes had thrown the occupation forces into chaos, just as the resistance leadership had intended. On the Kelnari homeworld, Admiral Terok raced through the corridors of the primary defense complex, which shook with each impact as human weapons found their targets. Around him, panic had replaced the arrogant confidence that had characterized the Dominion military for generations. "Status report," he demanded, entering the Tactical Operations Center. "It's a disaster, Admiral," replied the fleet coordinator, her scales pale with stress. "We've lost nearly half our orbital platforms. Our reinforcement fleet encountered some kind of cloaked minefield on their approach, 70 vessels destroyed or disabled. And now we're receiving reports that Earth itself is in open revolt." Terok felt his heart sink. How could they have coordinated this so perfectly? How could they have built a fleet without our knowledge? "Sir, it appears they were preparing for this long before we even reached Earth," the coordinator said, pulling up a data stream on her console. "We're intercepting transmissions between their fleet and ground forces. They evacuated billions of their people before our invasion. They've been building ships and training forces in secret for 3 years while gathering intelligence on our every weakness." Terok slammed his fist against the console. "And we played right into their hands. We thought we were occupying their homeworld, but all we did was give them time to prepare." The room shook again as another orbital defense station was destroyed. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from our forces on Earth. General Vector reports that the humans have seized control of multiple command centers. They're systematically taking down our defense grid planet-wide." "Can we send reinforcements?" Tarok demanded, though he already knew the answer. The fleet coordinator shook her head. "Impossible, sir. We need every ship here to defend Throck, even then." She didn't need to finish the sentence. "Even then, it might not be enough." "High Council is demanding an update, Admiral," the communications officer added. Tarok straightened his uniform, preparing to face the council that had so recently been calling for his head. "Tell them I'll report in person." In the council chamber, chaos reigned. Reports were streaming in from across Dominion space of human attacks on outposts, shipyards, and supply lines. The coordinated offensive had caught them completely by surprise. "Admiral Terok," the High Counselor greeted him as he entered, her voice ice cold. "Explain how this catastrophe came to pass under your command." Terok met her gaze unflinchingly. High Counselor, esteemed members of the Council, what we face is not merely a rebellion or a counterattack. The humans executed a masterful deception on a scale unprecedented in galactic warfare. He activated the central holographic display, showing the extent of the human offensive. They allowed us to believe we had conquered their world while evacuating their population and industrial capacity. They infiltrated our command structure, gathered intelligence, and prepared for this moment. What we are witnessing is not the desperate last stand of a defeated species, but the opening move of a carefully planned campaign. The High Counselor stared at the display, the gravity of the situation finally sinking in. What do you suggest, Admiral? We sue for peace, Tarok said simply. Immediately, while we still have something to bargain with. Gasps and shouts of protest filled the chamber. The Dominion does not surrender, one counselor shouted. The Dominion has never faced an enemy like this, Tarok countered. An enemy that thinks generations ahead, that sacrifices its homeworld as a strategic feint, that studies its opponents so thoroughly it can predict their every move. If we don't end this war now on whatever terms we can get, there may not be a Dominion left to surrender. As if to emphasize his point, the building shook violently as human weapons found their mark. The lights flickered and emergency systems activated. The High Counselor's face was grave as she made her decision. Open a channel to their fleet, we will hear their terms. In orbit above Earth, the last of the Dominion battle cruisers surrendered as human ships reclaimed control of humanity's home system. Commander Reeves stood in the recaptured orbital command station, watching as transport ships began returning from the colony worlds, bringing the first wave of evacuated civilians home. It's really over, isn't it? Lieutenant Franklin asked, standing beside her at the viewport. Reeves nodded slowly. This phase is. The Dominion has accepted Admiral West's terms. They're withdrawing from all human territories and agreeing to significant reparations. Do you think they'll honor the agreements? Reeves turned to look at the stars beyond Earth's orbit, where the combined human fleet now stood watch. They don't have much choice. Their military is broken, their leadership in disarray, and they know now what happens when they underestimate humanity. She smiled, a real smile for the first time in years. Besides, we're not the same species they attacked 3 years ago. We've spread out among the stars, built hidden colonies and shipyards. We've learned and adapted. Whatever comes next, humanity is ready. As if to confirm her words, a new ship appeared in orbit, the massive colony vessel Prometheus, returning with its precious cargo of human lives. The first of many coming home, Admiral Tarok stood in the ruins of the Dominion High Council chamber. The building had been hit in the third wave of the human attack. Emergency lights cast red shadows over the scene as he surveyed the damage. Admiral, a junior officer called, picking his way through the debris. Urgent communication from Earth. Tarok took the offered data pad, reading the message with growing horror. The occupation forces were under coordinated attack from human resistance fighters. Over half of the command centers had already fallen, and worst of all, their defensive systems had been compromised planet-wide. How, he growled, how could they have planned this? Sir, the officer hesitated, there's more. We've detected massive energy signatures in Earth orbit. Ships, sir, hundreds of them appearing out of nowhere. Tarok's hand tightened on the data pad until it cracked. Cloaking technology, they had cloaking technology all along. He looked up at the sky, visible through a hole blasted in the council chamber roof. Somewhere up there, human warships were systematically destroying the Dominion fleet. Send a message to all remaining ships, he ordered. Fall back to defensive position Omega, we need to regroup. Sir, the officer looked confused, Omega is our last resort position. If we retreat there. I know what it means, Tarok snapped. But if we don't consolidate what's left of our fleet, we won't have anything to defend the homeworld with. Do it now. As the officer hurried away, Tarok activated his personal communicator, connecting directly to the High Counselor's secure channel. High Counselor, I recommend immediate evacuation of the government complex. The humans are systematically targeting our command and control centers. Evacuation? The disbelief in the High Counselor's voice was evident even through the static of the damaged communication system. The Dominion does not flee, Admiral. The Dominion will cease to exist if its leadership is wiped out, Tarok countered. This isn't a battle we can win through pride. The humans have outmaneuvered us completely. There was a long pause before the High Counselor responded. Very well, the Council will relocate to the emergency bunker. Report there as soon as you can. Terok acknowledged the order and ended the transmission. As he made his way out of the ruined chamber, his mind raced, trying to understand how everything had gone so catastrophically wrong. The humans they had faced at Earth had fought bravely but conventionally. Their ships, while technologically advanced, had shown no signs of the stealth capabilities or weapons strength now being displayed. It was as if they had been fighting an entirely different species. Or perhaps he realized with a cold certainty that had been the point all along. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral West watched as the tactical display updated, showing the Dominion fleet retreating to a defensive position around their homeworld. "They're consolidating their forces, Admiral," Lieutenant Mercer reported, "pulling everything back to defend Throck." West nodded. "As expected, begin Phase 4. Have the Artemis and Orion battle groups move to cut off their retreat vectors. The rest of the fleet will maintain pressure on their forward positions." "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Commander Reeves," the communications officer called out. "Earth Defense Grid is back online and under human control. All major Dominion command centers have been neutralized." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but West raised a hand for silence. "This isn't over yet. The Dominion still has significant forces, and cornered enemies are the most dangerous. Lieutenant Hayes, status of the Phase 4 contingency." The strategic operations officer checked her console. "Ready to deploy on your command, Admiral." "Stand by," West ordered. "First, let's see if they're ready to talk." Meanwhile, in the Dominion emergency bunker deep beneath Throck's surface, the High Council gathered in somber silence. The holographic displays showed the grim reality. Human forces had broken through their defenses with shocking ease. Their homeworld was under direct attack for the first time in the Dominion's thousand-year history, and reports from across their territory indicated coordinated strikes against key installations. "How is this possible?" demanded Councillor Verak, his usually composed demeanor cracking under the pressure. "How could they have built such a fleet in secret? How could they coordinate attacks across our entire territory?" High Councillor Marina turned to Admiral Terok, who had just arrived. "You've had more experience with the humans than anyone, Admiral. Explain this." Terok stepped forward, his posture rigid despite his exhaustion. "High Council, what we're witnessing is the result of a strategic deception on an unprecedented scale. The humans we fought at Earth, the ones we thought we defeated, were merely a fraction of their true military strength." He activated the central display, showing the data his analysts had pieced together. "When we first detected their interstellar capabilities and identified them as a potential threat, we believed we understood their technological level and military doctrine. But it appears they deliberately showed us only what they wanted us to see." "You mean they allowed us to attack them?" Councillor Jennar asked incredulously. "Not exactly," Terok replied. "But they recognized our intentions before we launched our invasion. Instead of mobilizing their full strength to defend Earth, they executed a massive evacuation operation, moving billions of their people and much of their industrial capacity to hidden colony worlds beyond our sensor range." He changed the display to show the expanding sphere of human activity, now being detected across multiple star systems. "The resistance we encountered at Earth was significant but limited, a delaying action to buy time for their evacuation and to study our tactics and technology. The occupation gave them 3 years to analyze every aspect of our military capabilities while building their true fleet in secret." "And Dr. Harper," High Councillor Marina asked, "the human scientist who defected to us?" "A deep-cover operative," Terok confirmed. "One of many, we now believe. They infiltrated our command structure, our research facilities, even our strategic planning divisions. They weren't just gathering intelligence, they were actively sabotaging our systems, introducing vulnerabilities that their fleet is now exploiting." The room fell silent as the full implications sank in. The Dominion.